Alright, ladies and gents, welcome to another video. So this is Rethinking Diabetes. So first of all, I'd like to apologise because I think this is going to be relatively negative, or it's going to focus relatively on the negative kind of stuff. But that's really to emphasise reality rather than brush over reality with kind of innocuous labels, which is what we're doing at the moment. The way I'm going to form this video is I'm just going to do a quick summary to start with, and then I'll put a PowerPoint which goes into a bit more detail as to what I'm talking about, because no doubt I'll miss something. And really the purpose of the video is for people without diabetes to try and help encourage them to make lifestyle choices which might help prevent diabetes or at least reduce the likelihood of getting it. For people with diabetes, to help increase the likelihood that they'll do stuff to help manage blood sugars better. And for people with sort of bordering on getting diabetes, i.e. with like pre-diabetes, the same as the people without diabetes, to help hopefully increase the likelihood that they'll implement lifestyle changes which will get them away from diabetes and hopefully prevent diabetes and hopefully reverse the damage that's been done already. So that's the purpose of the video, and as I say, I think emphasising the reality of kind of the experience of living with diabetes is one way of doing that, and one way of emphasising the reality is to de-abstract these innocuous labels. So the three labels I want to de-abstract. First of all, the word diabetes is a stereotype in itself, and there's a lot of individual variation between people with diabetes. That stereotype has been broken down into different types, type 1, type 2 and other types, and each of those types is also a stereotype with individual variation between those people within those categories as well. So that's the first thing to note. So it's quite difficult to talk about things where there's a lot of individual variation, and effectively we're talking in stereotypes, but that said, I'll try and do my best. So the first innocuous thing is not innocuous thing. Well, it is innocuous, and also abstract thing that we think about is that we frame diabetes and think about it in terms of blood sugar, which is true, but blood sugar is effectively our energy. So a suboptimal regulation of blood sugar could be reframed or rethought of as a suboptimal ability to absorb and use energy. So diabetes can be rethought of as an illness that attacks and undermines our ability to absorb and use energy. And I think if we phrase it in this way, a lot more people will try and avoid it and manage blood sugars better, because effectively we're managing energy better, and nobody, I think if we ask for a poll of who wants to go through life with a body that has a reduced ability to absorb and use energy, I don't think there'll be many people who would be up for that. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we do, that we use as an innocuous label, is hypoglycemia, or low blood sugar. And this can be rethought of as being on the brink of falling into a coma from starvation. As a personal kind of example, I did some fasting last year, and the longest fast I did was 8 days. And 8 days without food didn't feel anywhere near as bad as a low blood sugar, a mild low blood sugar. And that's, I think, because effectively, as I say, it's starvation, but it's starvation over a very short period of time. We go from a state of being not in starvation to being practically falling into a coma from starvation within several minutes. So I think it's the time frame that makes the body unable to adapt properly to it, and hence why it feels so horrendous to have. In terms of how many times we feel like we're on the brink of, or we are on the brink of falling into a coma from starvation, again, as a personal example, in the last 15 years I've had over 5,000 times of being at various being on the brink of falling into a coma from starvation to varied degrees, and that's a very conservative estimate as to how many times. Another important thing is that it can happen any time, so day or night. Can be in the middle of being asleep, suddenly we're on the brink of falling into a coma from starvation. In the middle of a speech, at the pub with friends, playing football, doing other sports, doing anything, walking to the shops, and then sort of snap, we're in starvation mode and nearly passing out and falling into a coma from it. So I think that's another important thing to kind of emphasise the importance of, and emphasise the reality of the situation rather than just say low blood sugar, because I don't think the words low blood sugar really represent what it feels like to have a low blood sugar. That's the second thing. The third thing is the word complications, which are basically the consequences of poor blood sugar regulation, poor energy regulation. And the word complications is true, technically true, in that the things that it's referring to do make our lives more complicated. But some of the potential complications are things like being unable to see through blindness, or organ failure, or having to have a limb amputated. And I don't think we'd go up to anyone in these sort of situations and go, "Oh, you've had your foot amputated, have you? That looks complicated." It's just the language doesn't fit the reality of the situation. Aside from that, there's also the time management aspect in terms of obviously we lose time in terms of the damage it does to our body, therefore we're going to live shorter lives. We also lose time in terms of the amount of time we have to put in to try and manage blood sugars, which, according to my sort of quick calculations, again, it's going to vary massively from person to person, but if we're doing like a 40-hour week, it takes up roughly 14% of our time if we spend sort of half an hour a day thinking about and or doing things related to diabetes, such as injections or blood tests, etc. Another important point is that it can have, and often does have, or cause intrusive thoughts, because we could be in the middle of anything and suddenly we'll be thinking, what's our blood sugar, if we're trying to manage it effectively, which obviously we should be. And intrusive thoughts are something that kind of go against the state of flow, which is something that's talked about a lot in various books and things like that, which is kind of like the optimal experience, in terms of we're kind of really in the zone, basically. That's what that refers to. So diabetes can more often take us out of the zone, either through intrusive thoughts or from episodes of being close to falling into a coma from low blood sugar, from starvation. The reason I think it's important to phrase it like this is for the purposes of this video. So imagine someone came into a doctor's surgery with pre-diabetes. The doctor could say something like, "I'm really sorry, but it looks like your body is currently losing its ability to absorb and use energy. If you implement these particular lifestyle changes, then you might be able to regain that ability to absorb and use energy." And I think rephrasing it in that kind of way will help facilitate people implementing lifestyle choices which help prevent the illness. So yeah, I'll pop the PowerPoint up after this because I think that's pretty much it in a nutshell, but no doubt I've missed something. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Again, apologies about the sort of negative focus of this video, but again, it's to try and emphasise reality without exaggerating the negativity. It's just to emphasise the kind of reality of the experience of living with diabetes. But yeah, I appreciate you watching. I look forward to seeing your comments in the comment section. I hope to see you in the next video, which hopefully will be a lot more positive than this one. Cheers for watching.